Wallace. Yeah. We're going to talk another side of Elvis right there. How are you, sir? I'm doing well. There you go. There's your microphone.
How you guys doing out there?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh,
I can
okay.
talk really. Can you hear me?
There you go.
Now can you hear me better?
There you go.
I lived in Memphis from 1972 to 1982, working for Elvis, teaching at Memphis State University, and it was never this cold. Ever. I don't ever remember the snow. I remember riding a motorcycle Christmas Day, playing golf in January. Now I just want to hibernate.
Well, you're at the right place, the guest house at Presley.
Yes,
Yeah.
to do it.
So we were talking about Elvis and martial arts, and you meeting him and working with him. But the thing I wanted to talk about first with you, and we didn't do this last time, was just about martial arts itself and how it came to being and how it came to America, and Elvis being really a part of bringing it to America.
Definitely so. Elvis, when he joined the service, and never mind, he was stationed in Germany. And there was one of his sergeants, I believe, was a martial arts instructor and started working with martial arts in Germany. And then I went back over there a couple of years ago and did some things. But yeah, he started back in the, I would say, mid-50s.
That's right, yeah. And coming then, when he came back to the U.S. and started making movies, he started integrating some of that training into fight scenes.
When he came back, he started going to Pasadena, California, and working with a gentleman, a fantastic individual named Ed Parker, who had done films also. And he started doing it's called Kempo Karate. And started doing some of the self-defense techniques in the system, which is absolutely beautiful to watch. It's nice flowing movements and things like that. Hard, strong stuff.
Yeah.
So it looked beautiful. Plus, on the screen, you can miss. And it looks great because as you're going through with it, your opponent sells the shot, and then you have the sound effects on top of that, and it looks like, wow. It's like, has anybody ever watched Three Stooges? Yeah. I've watched Three Stooges I don't know how many times, and I keep looking for misses. When they do a hit or something, and I don't find any.
Yeah.
And I go, those are either they're beating the hell out of each other, or doing really, really good sound effects and misses. But that's what it is. It's how to sell the shot. And with the Kempo that he did, it looked gorgeous.
And you were talking too about one of his usual opponents was a guy he always worked out with, Red West. If you look in the movie, most of the time he's
as Red West. Yeah, Red was his chief of security. He was also his high school friend that protected him against all the big bad bullies in high school that didn't like the way Elvis looked.
Yeah. How did you? So he finds martial arts in Germany and brings it to America. Uses it in California. Starts taking classes. How did you get into martial arts and bring you to Memphis?
Let me tell you a story. I'm national champion 1971, 72, and 73. In 1972, I accepted graduate assistantship at Memphis State University to do my graduate work in kinesiology and physiology of exercise. Not just a good-looking guy, but I know. but anyway, so I'm going to school there, right? And all of a sudden I get down there and I have to get an apartment. And all of a sudden I find out that Memphis State's going to pay me $150 a month to teach and to go to school there. And the apartments were $250. And I'm going, I got to find a tent or something. All of a sudden Congreve has a school about 2 or 3 blocks from the apartment that I was living in. So I go down to Congreve and introduce myself, and so he knew who I was and so forth. And he goes, Mr. Wallace. I said, yes, sir. He says, how about I pay you, teach my people how to fight? And I went, huh? And I said, I'll teach you, he'll pay me, teach his students how to fight. Congreve is a fantastic individual, but he didn't know how to have his people compete in the way we fight here in the United States. So I said, I can do that. So now understand, 1972, I get $150 from Memphis State, and I get $750 from Congreve a month. So that's $900 I'm making as a college student. So I went, I this.
I wouldn't have been a college student very much after that. So, yeah.
But that's funny too.
Oh.
Because what happened is, so I'm starting to work for him, for Congaree, working out and so forth. And in February 1973, they have the United States Championships in Dallas, Texas every year. And I'd won it 2 years before that. So I go to Dallas with Congaree, and I compete, and I find a guy named, you probably never heard of him, but a kid named Skipper Mullins. Absolutely fantastic individual. Absolutely fantastic individual. He's a great kicker. Unzips his pants right about here, so he's all leg. And I'm one of these things looking up at him, and I'm going, how am I going to beat this guy? I got lucky, and I won. And so yay for me. But, so I get back to Memphis, I go to school, and I'm going to teaching at Congaree School, right? All of a sudden there's a commotion out in the foyer. All of a sudden Congaree comes in with the entourage, and Congaree says, "Trip," which means attention. So I'll come to attention, and Mr. Wallace. And I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Come here." So I come over there, and he says, "Mr. Presley wants to meet you." I go, "Huh?" And I went, so we come out, we shake hands, and evidently he was at the U.S. Championships in Dallas, Texas, up in the boonies, where nobody could see, because it was one of the top 2 tournaments in the world, as a matter of fact, for competition. So he saw me win, and he wanted to meet me, and I went, "Yeah." So I'm thrilled to death. Problem is, I graduate from Memphis State University. So now I'm from Indiana originally. Yay, it's freezing there too, by the way. So I go back to Indianapolis, where I'm from, and I start working for a gentleman named Kenny Knutson, who's a friend of mine, has a series of karate schools around. So I'm working for him in Indianapolis, and my father, I'm sure you all have parents like this. My father always wanted me to be a school teacher. That's what I went to school for, right? And he says, "When are you going to," pardon, I apologize for what it's going to sound like. He says, "When are you going to quit doing this shit and get a job?" Because it was amateur competition. And I'm paying all this money to go to tournaments and competing and so forth. Plus there's an entry fee. So, and I'm winning, so I feel, Dad, I'm having fun. I'm having a good time. I'm doing my schoolwork. I'm getting, it's something I can do later. And he said, "Well," so he sets up an interview for me in Frankfort, Indiana, which is just north of Indianapolis, to teach school. So I make my father feel happy, so I go up to the interview. Now, my minor in college was industrial education. Hey, you get through as easy as you can, okay? Shop. Basically, it's called shop. Okay? And I do the interview, and they say, we want you. And I said, "Okay, for what?" They said, "We want you to teach metal shop." Excuse me, metal shop? After 3 or 4 years, that's what you look at.
Yeah.
You're going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
You're going to miss it and do something. I said, "God, thank you." Now I'm on my way back to the school to teach, and I'm going, how am I going to say, "Dad, I don't want to do this"? How can I do this? I get back to the school. I'm there for about 10 or 15 minutes, and my friend Herbie says, "Mr. Wallace?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You might want to take this telephone call." I said, "Uh-oh, something's wrong." And I answered the phone. I said, "Hello," and it's Red West. He said, "Just a minute." Uh-oh. And, "Hi, Bill." And I said, "Hello, sir. How are you doing?" He says, "I want you to come back to Memphis and open up a karate school so I can have a place to train and work out." And I went, And I went, He says, "You think about it?" I said, "I did."
I did.
"When do you want me there?" And he says, "Well, take your time, come down." This is in April. "Come down in May." So I said, "Okay." Now I hang up the phone and I go, God, how am I going to tell my father that I'm going to go work for Elvis Presley? I call home. "Hi, Dad, how you doing?" "Let me speak to Mom."
That was a good move.
1956, my mother took me to see Love Me Tender. So I know I got it. So I said, Mom, you know how my dad wants me to teach? And he says, yeah. I said, well, I don't know how to tell him this, but I just took a job working for Elvis Presley. Mom? Mom, you there? Dad picks up the phone. He says, what'd you just say to your mother? I just told her I took a job working for Elvis Presley. Dad. So that was the extent of that. And then the funniest part of, I'm about this high off the ground, walking around, teaching class and having, guess what, I'm going, And all of a sudden I get a phone call from people in Florida, Mike Anderson and Joe Lewis. I've been picked to be the middleweight on the karate team that's going to represent the United States in the World Championships. Full contact kickboxing.
Oh, man.
And I said, oh, no. You guys have fun. Enjoy yourself. Right now I can throw a punch or a kick and come close to you and think I could kill you.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to do it. And he said, you're going to do it. Well, they talked me into doing it. And luckily I won the world championship, defended it 23 times.
You defended it 23 times.
I retired 1980 undefeated, so I never lost. But that's it. But any competitors in here that used to compete doing anything, most of it's luck. Luckily for me, I was never injured. I was always ready. I was in good shape, physically wise and mentally wise. Mm-hmm. So that was the best part. Most people, when they start to do something during the course of a period of time, they injure themselves somehow, so they get weaker or whatever it is, and it was still a ball to me. To this day, I still love the martial arts. I'm 79 years old, and I'm having a blast. That's how we met.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. We were talking backstage. I said that, in the 60s, martial arts was still kind of something that if you knew about it, you knew about it, like Elvis. Right. And it wasn't until that TV show Kung Fu with David Carradine that whole kind of combat really kind of came out to us.
Yeah, oh, really, yeah. Especially for me.
Yeah.
About 19, should I tell him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, about 1976, I'm working for Elvis with the mafia, and all of a sudden I get this phone call from Red West. He says, "Come out the house, we need you." Why? So I drive out to the house, and he says, Billy Stanley and David Stanley were with his siblings, his stepbrothers. Billy just got beat up in a bar. And I want you to find out what happened. I'd love to stay and talk to you, but I gotta be someplace. I'm gonna go home. Because I've never been in a fight. I don't know. I compete. I'm a great competitor, but I've never been in a street fight.
Yeah.
Most martial artists haven't. But so I go out there and I don't know what happened, but they found out where this guy lives. We go to the door. Bam! Red West knocks the door down with a sidekick. Welcome home, guys. We walk in, there's two guys in there. One guy standing beside the refrigerator, the other guy sitting down in the living room. All of a sudden, Red West nails this guy with a kicking technique to the side against the refrigerator. He slides down the refrigerator. I turn around and go, and listening to this guy, guy's got a 30-06 pointed at me doing this. And Red's going, I said, Red, take it easy. The gun's pointed at me. And I said, now all we want to know is what happened. Well, they said some things about how Billy started the fight and so forth. And I don't notice it, but I'm looking down, and actually, this is the truth, Kung Fu is on television. And I went, you're kidding. You're kidding. So they apologized. We apologized for breaking down their door and beating the guy up. And we left. And you look back at it, and it's funny. But as you're doing it,
yeah.
If you're not Red West, you're going,
yeah. Well, that's how Red said hello.
yeah. Excuse me. We used to spar all the time. I used to spar with Red. I would hit Red. My favorite kicking technique is a side kick. I had 13 knockouts with a side kick. But anyway, I hit Red with a side kick. I thought killed him. And as I hit him, he's going down, and I look down at him, and he's crawling his way up my leg to try to get to me. Can't breathe. And I went, he's on my side.
Yeah. He's tough.
He is a tough guy.
He's tough. tell him what you told me about, we were back there talking, and about how, and Red told me this too, when we would go out and have dinner, he always knew how many exits were in the room. I could talk to him and say, okay, Red, who's in the room? And he would know, well, there's a guy behind me over here. When we came in, I saw him lean over to his wife and say something, so he knows who I am. So he's probably, I'm going to be on the lookout for him. If he may be one of those people that wants to prove himself, you don't know who they are. And he was just aware of exits and people and who was coming up.
Yeah.
And you said even meeting people when you still, it's ingrained in you.
I've never been in a street fight.
Yeah.
I try not to be. If there's a dark side of the street here and light, I'm going to walk in the lighted side, and I'm not going to walk through any openings. When we go in here, I'm facing you. I notice there's nobody behind us. And when we're talking, anybody remember Wild Bill Hickok? Okay, remember that? He always sat with his facing the front door. One time, the guy was in his chair. He sat in the seat behind, with his back to the door. Guys came in and shot him. Just for your, what was the cards? Aces and eights. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, and we just, because that's part of the training.
Yeah.
We might throw 15,000 punches, 15,000 kicks, but we also know our surroundings.
Right. Tony Soprano would still be alive if he had used this kind of training. I mean, really, he's playing with that jukebox and the guy came up behind him. Something happened, we don't know. How did you get the nickname Superfoot?
Well,
that's not a nickname you give yourself.
No. When I was in college, I was very fast. And I'm fighting in an event in Las Vegas on CBS Sports Spectacular. And I'm fighting the fighter from Los Angeles named Jimmy Colas. In the second round, I catch him with a roundhouse kick and knock him out. And the cameras can't catch it. And they said, what just happened? What just happened? And they had to play it back slow motion in a couple different angles to show the kick. And it showed the kick. And I wanted to fight. And the next week, the president of the PK, a guy named Don Quine, is at a Lakers basketball game. And he goes back to the concession stand. And there's a big sign that says, Super Foot Long Hot Dogs. Stop it. It was Superfoot. Now, I would have loved being Superfoot. It became Superfoot. So now, through the words of slimy foot, stupid foot,
Superfoot's
silly
pretty
foot, yeah. So, but I hated it first, but now that's what everybody knows me by.
Well, at the Tennessee Karate Institute,
Yes,
that is
sir.
still there,
Yeah.
that you established, and if you've seen the footage from the new Gladiators, and this is Elvis walking in to the karate studio with Richard Davis, and they're going through that door, and they're walking up those stairs. That's still there.
Still there. It's
And on the door is that
Me.
silhouette of
Yeah.
Superfoot. With,
It's run now by Pat Wren, and it's still. I went there last year. Still have great memories.
yeah.
People would come and train. Little side note: 1978. I'm teaching at the school, and a guy named Chuck Norris walks in the door, and we've been friends. A little sidebar here. When I fought Skipper Mullins in Dallas, Texas, 4 judges and head referee. In one corner was Chuck Norris. In one corner was Pat Burleson. In one corner was Bob Wall. In the other corner was Jim Harrison. The head referee was a guy named Ed Daniels. We bow in, and Skipper comes charging. I hit him with a defensive hook kick and knock him out, which is not supposed to happen, but I apologized. And it comes to, and they said, point, because if you ever done anything in Texas, it's full gore. You can knock a guy out, and if you apologize, it's okay. But anyway, I knocked him out, and he gets up, and he says, good point. I said, I didn't get the point. Chuck Norris goes, no point, hit him in the arm. And he gets up and opens up his sleeve, and a big old heel print right on his solar plexus. So that was my introduction to Chuck.
You did a movie with Chuck or two.
I did a Force of One.
Yeah.
But anyway, he came up the stairs. And now this is 1978 when I'm in my prime. So he says, he wants to talk to me. He says, could we spar? And I went, okay, really? So we kicked everybody out. And for about an hour and a half, we beat the crap out of each other. Really? No. I mean, you have 2 friends, sparring, we're not trying to kill each other, but we beat the crap out of each other. And nobody will ever know what happened, because it was just he and I.
Yeah.
So
That's like that scene in Rocky when
yeah, oh yeah.
Apollo and Rocky
Yeah,
are
the
just
last
on their
one,
own.
the last second.
Yeah.
But we had a blast. And afterwards he says, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." He says, "I'm doing a movie called A Force of One, and I want you to be the bad guy." Don't look at me like that. So I said, "Yeah, I do it." So I had to fight over in Monte Carlo in front of Princess Grace Renee. Won that fight, then came back and called Chuck and said, "If you still want me to do it, I'll be glad." And he said, "Fine." So we flew out to LA, met with everybody, and everything was fine. We did the film, 1978.
Yeah. You worked with a couple of guys that really were responsible for including martial arts in film, and also not just Chuck Norris, Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan, we did a
Same
Protector with Jackie. I was the bad guy in that one too. Funny thing is, I've done 16 films. I've died in every one of them. but understand this part. I'm really good at it. And when it comes time to go, I'm just going to ask the man. I said, "Which way you want me to go?" I've practiced all of it. Only one thing I didn't die in that we did. If you ever watch Walker, Texas Ranger, we did the last sequence called Legends. Joe Louis, Howard Jackson, Don Wilson, and myself.
Yeah.
And
All the legends of
yeah,
yeah.
and we did. That was the last one, and had a blast.
Yeah. Well, it's great having you here. It's
my pleasure.
great having you
It's
come
fun coming
back to Memphis. Yeah. And like I said, to talk to the people that work with Elvis as actors, as musicians, as friends, as hairdressers. I mean, I've talked to so many people